Let me read you the exact quote, Mr. Mearsheimer. You say that the war was motivated, at least in good part, by a desire to make Israel more secure, and you go on to say the war would almost certainly not have occurred had it, the Israel lobby, been absent. What is your evidence for that? Because in reading your book, I have to say I didn't see any quotes from people in the administration saying, you know, this was a big factor when we sat around the table.
Well, first of all, it's quite clear that the government of Israel pushed very hard for the war. Furthermore, it's very clear that the principal institutions in the lobby, to include AIPAC, pushed for the war. Now that the war has gone south, a number of Israel's supporters have argued that that's not the case, that the lobby did not push for the war. But there's all sorts of evidence that organizations like AIPAC did push for the war. And furthermore, the neoconservatives, who are deeply committed to Israeli security, as well as American security, were among the principal force drivers behind this war. And when you add all that up, it's quite clear that one of the principal reasons, not the only reason, but one of the principal reasons that the United States went to war against Iraq was because of the Israel lobby and Israel itself pushing for it.
And Mr. Foxman, do you dispute that?
That's absolute nonsense. First of all, either it is the lobby that forced the war or it isn't. And now we've heard several versions of it. If Mearsheimer and Walt were engaged in an honest research and scholarship, they would have found that, number one, the overwhelming majority of American Jews since before the war to this day are opposed to the war. I am part of the lobby, the Anti-Defamation League is, and all that we did is after the president declared war with Congress, we issued a statement supporting the president's war against terror. AIPAC did the same. That is nothing close to the type of lobbying that Mearsheimer and Wald claimed the Jewish community and the Israel lobby engaged. Now, about Israel, again, had they done their research, not selectively, not skewed, they would have found that Prime Minister Sharon advised this administration that he felt that the threat is Iran, not Iraq. And now we're being told, Margaret, this is only a precursor. The people who brought you the Iraq war, the Israel lobby, the Jewish supporters, are now going to bring you the Iran war. So this is a precursor in terms of the canards that the American Jewish community, the Israel lobby, which is part and parcel in their definition, are the ones who are pushing America again to war against America's interests, against the best interests of the United States.
Your book does, in fact, argue that now the Israel lobby is pushing for conflict with Iran.
Can I respond to a number of the points that Mr. Foxman made? First of all, we make it very clear in the book that the American Jewish community was more opposed to the war than the American body politic at large. We agree with what he says. He's misrepresenting the argument here. Our claim is that the Israel lobby, which is not the Jewish lobby and is not the American Jewish community, was pushing for the war. With regard to AIPAC, there is hard evidence that AIPAC was pushing for the war. Howard Corr, who's the executive director of AIPAC, told the New York Sun in January 2003 that one of his most important accomplishments for the previous year was quietly pushing for the war in Iraq up on Capitol Hill. So there is evidence that AIPAC was in favor of the war.
Sad scholarship to quote one quote in the New York Sun by the spokesman of AIPAC. Based on that, I hardly believe the United States government would be convinced to go to war.